This week we ride Suzuki's GSXR600. And in the first of a new regular feature, we talk to Neil Hodgson.
Motorcycle sprinting or drag racing, whatever you call it, is one of those sports not a lot of people know a lot about, and that includes me. But this guy over here does. This is Steve Hillary. He's already champion of the Super Twins. Is that right, Steve?
Yeah, National Association of Super Twins.
Yeah, and I saw you go down the strip this morning here at Brighton, sounding beautiful on this Ducati. Now, to people who don't like Ducatis, tough luck. I love the things, and this bike sounded superb. And you did a pretty good time in practice, didn't you?
10.8 at 137, yeah, so
Yeah.
that was quite good, considering there's quite a bit of oil on the start. So,
Yes, that's right. You just slewed sideways a wee bit, didn't you?
Just a tad.
Tell us about the bike a bit, because this is really tricked up, isn't it? You've got everything on it, so
Yeah.
you start away.
It's ball end strokes from what it was, which was a 955 Corsa. A lot of Ferrari parts in it from the States, including the cams and the valves, a stroker crank in it. It's got titanium rods, titanium valves as well, magnesium engine side casings, titanium exhaust system, which is a spaghetti system, and of course all the carbon fibre tank and bodywork, so to make it light as well.
And you've even got this thing registered for the road, haven't you?
Well, yeah, we do use it on the road a bit.
Quite a road tool. Now, what have you actually done to it for sprinting? I've already noticed you've got the lengthened swinging arm.
Yeah, we've lengthened the swinging arm and changed the gearing, and we've also got a chip written by Ferrari, which tames it down a bit, increases the torque, and gives the power spread across the range is improved. You know, the mid-range is beefed up for the drag racing, basically, without losing any top-end power. That's what it's about.
So, with the engine mods, with the chip mods, the lengthened swinging arm, you can keep the front end down, or more or less.
That's the idea.
Get all that power down, and away you go.
Yeah.
Now, something else I understand, this has had a bit of a history to it as well, hasn't it?
Yeah.
So, tell us a bit about that.
It was Trevor Nation's bike in British Superbikes for the Oxford Fairings team.
Yeah.
In the first place, that was in 93, 94. Then it was Ray Stringer's bike for the Devonmead team the year they won, which was 94, 95. And since then, I've just had it myself and drag raced it.
Yeah.
Been on a few circuits, but not a lot really.
No, and it's it's got to be an unusual bike. Well, in the Twin series, I don't suppose it is too unusual, is it?
Well, there's only two. Well, there was two Ducatis in the Twin series.
Yeah.
One of them's a Bevel, the early one. This is the only fuel-injected bike there, so it is very unusual. Usually, it's Harley Davidson sort of territory, the drag racing. So we get out and give them a good kick in.
Right. Now, perhaps it's a bit unfair to actually drop it on you, but yours is the Twins class. I mean, just how many? There's road classes and race classes, and then other vintage classes as well.
In the Twins, there's street class, top gas, top fuel, and modified. And I run in the street class, which basically means it's got to be road legal.
Yeah.
But there's no other rule in apart from it has to be a 4-stroke twin.
All right.
They've just changed the rules this year to allow in 2-strokes. So only 2-strokes out there that want to come along, they're more than welcome now.
But will they beat you?
They can try.
Okay, thanks.
More the merrier. Thank you very much.
Well, just to prove motorcycling isn't totally a male preserve, and especially sprinting, Heidi Gifford here put on a good show this morning on this ZX9. Heidi, you've been doing this for a while?
Yeah, just over 6 years now.
Yeah. And come on, don't be modest. You actually won last year, didn't you?
I won my class at this event last year, yeah. I was doing a lot of racing last year, and I was quite fortunate to win.
And what class was that? Was that a class for road bikes?
This is they call it 1000cc racing class.
Yeah.
But, I normally race in the road legal up to 900cc class.
So this bike's your everyday bike, isn't it?
Yeah, I use it. I go on holiday on it. I use it for work every day, and I use it for sport as well. It's
Popping down the shops and all the rest
ideal.
of it.
It's perfect, yeah.
And what have you actually done to it? I mean, do you have to do anything to enter the sprint like this at all?
No, I ride to the events. I just tape up my lights, put on my racing numbers, and I'm ready to go.
Yeah.
I have made a few modifications to this one, but nothing really major.
No, just sort of dynajetting and that sort of stuff. And I see you've got some
sort of
nice trick bits on the fairing here to make it easy to remove.
Little details.
Yeah. And so, what do you think the attraction is then? What made you get into sprinting drag racing? I mean,
Well, it looked easy actually.
Well, here's a man you might well recognise, Mike Grainger of ZZR Turbo fame. Right, what are you doing on a Blackbird?
Well, it's a very nice road bike, and I'm a Honda, Kawasaki, Suzuki and Yamaha dealer, so I've got a good choice.
Oh, it's a bit of product placement, is this?
Absolutely.
So, before we move on to other things, have you done anything to the Blackbird?
No, it's completely stock, other than the Micron silencers and Dynajet, that's it.
Right, and then the fancy flash colour scheme.
That's GT Motorcycles colours.
Yeah, but you certainly went down the strip on the practice. Pretty neat this morning. Were you pleased with that?
When I was playing, really, to be honest. Yeah. Quite enjoyed it, though.
Now, look, to get back to the ZZR, remind us of what you did. Well, remind me what you did. I mean, over 200 mile an hour, wasn't it, on your...
Yeah, it was the British and European land speed record. I actually smashed the record, which was at 200.5, which is held by Mick Boysen out of Mafazian. I actually upped it to 209.05.
Yeah.
So that's actually taken your average speed in both directions from the flying quarter.
Yeah.
The biggest one we got in the UK, the longest we've got is 2 miles, that's it.
Yeah.
So as you can appreciate, it'd be a longer strip, it would have been quicker.
Yeah, and so what did that sort of speed feel like? I mean, you're used to fast bikes, but I mean, did it feel like, I silly think perhaps, did it feel like 200 mile an hour? What does 200 mile an hour feel like? But I mean, did it feel that fast?
Well, it felt twice as fast as 100 mile an hour.
Oh, very clever, right, enough of that then. So, what are you doing here today? Are you a regular sprinter?
I do a fair bit of sprinting, although to be honest, it's the first sprint I've done this year because I've been very busy with the shop.
Yeah.
And obviously, I've just got to enjoy myself today.
Right, okay, but you've done the Brighton sprint before, have you?
I have done. I really enjoyed it when it used to be a half mile.
Yeah.
Now it's a quarter. I mean, it's a bit...
Oh, it cramps your style a little bit.
A little,
doesn't it?
yeah.
So, when it was half a mile, what sort of terminal speed could you reach?
Well, with the turbo, it would have been knocking on the door at 200 miles an hour in half a mile. Yeah.
It's true, on the seafront as well.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Look out for seagulls, is it?
Absolutely.
Okay, bye. Well, look, I wish you all the best for this afternoon, and we shall watch your progress on the Blackbird.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Well, the Americans have got a phrase, run what you brung, which means it can be an ordinary road bike used on the road. And here we have a TL1000 Suzuki, a very ordinary road bike, and a very nice one too. Roger, you're the pilot of this one then?
Yes, yes.
So what made you pick this?
We knew we were going to be up against some competitive machinery down here today. We'd planned on it being a wet event, and we thought the TL with its sort of loads of torque would be ideal. So we bought the TL and a wet tyre, but the weather's been absolutely perfect, and we're going to just have to run it as is.
So how do you think it's going to fare then against the competition anyway? How did you do this morning?
Not too bad. You have a lot of problems with wheelies with the TL. The TL's got such a lot of power, getting it off the line's a real struggle. But yeah, 11 something was quite good, just under 130. So for a first run, yeah, fine.
Not bad. And I think I saw you going sideways at the start. Was that you? Was it?
No, that was Grainger. I was okay.
So a nice, neat launch. And what's the attraction about sort of sprinting to you?
Well, Brighton is one of the few that I do. It's a local event, very cosmopolitan and relaxed, and you can have fun. It's a nice road circuit, very friendly. Marshals are really good. It's a good event, nice event.
So it's this sort of genuine motorcycle sport, isn't it? Bring a road bike along, squirt it down.
Yeah, it's a traditional event. It's one of those things that you really got to help preserve, and that's it. You know, it's great.
Okay, and it's beautiful weather, so we'll wish you all the well for this afternoon, and
thanks very much.
You can do the business, rain or no rain. Cheers then.
Thanks.
Now this bike here really is a drag bike, and it's a bike that you'd recognise as a drag bike. Dave Holland is the pilot, and you're the course record holder at Brighton, Dave. But you're no newcomer to this, are you?
No, this is about my 5th year of actually doing it now. Started doing it about 7 years ago, but now this is the furthest we've ever been with it now. We've done everything we can to have an all-out attempt at a record today. So.
And you were the quickest this morning, mate.
Yeah, we had a good mile an hour. We ran 168 over the finish line wheeling, but. It's spinning the tyre too viciously to get a good time.
Yeah.
So we've got to play around with it now. We've shortened it up a bit. We've let a bit of pressure out. Martin Peck, my mechanic there, he's done well. We should go another 5 minutes.
Because you don't run wheelie bars on this, do you?
No, if I run wheelie bars, then it loads up more of the engine, and if it doesn't wheel spin and doesn't wheelie, then something can break.
Ah, so it's that fine balance between the two.
So I tend to go for like the rideability side of it.
Yeah. Now, using the old Suzuki GSXR.
Yeah.
11 it started at, but what is it now?
1408 now.
Which is really massive, isn't it?
Yeah.
So what's that? That's crank, board and stroked and everything else?
Stroke the crank light and bore out all the liners. It's a big block, looks like an old school radiator in there now. It's like great big 85mm pistons in there. And
oh, I can see it, yeah. It's lost
like
those nice fine fins, hasn't it? Yeah.
So you have to have that to get the big capacity into it. But I mean, now we had a good run on it a couple of weeks ago. We went 8.7 over the quarter, 169.
Yeah.
So that's charging on now. It's great fun to ride.
And so the other thing, this one, unlike the road bikes we've been looking at, this one's got air shifter and all the rest of it. Yeah.
You launch it on a sort of a launch control system. You change gear with a button. You've got nitrous buttons which you press halfway down, and it's a bit like a disco now. Really.
Yeah.
There's a lot of lights in there, and they all play a part. And if you don't respond to them quick, you mess it up. So it's a mind game. You've got to be headstrong for it.
And you make it all sound so simple and straightforward.
I wish it was. No, I mean you'll see at the end of the day if it's made it that simple, because I'll take home the trophy. But
yeah,
there's a lot of work to be done.
Riding a mobile pogo stick.
Neil, not ideal biking weather, is it today?
No, I think you've got me out on one of the coldest days of the year. Thanks a lot, Jeff. I owe you one.
Well, not to worry. Do you get the chance to get out on the road much, or do you just have to grab a day like today? And
I've got to say, I do enjoy going out on the road, but it's pretty rare for me to get out on the road. Maybe 5-6 times a year, and it's nowhere near enough. You know, you get presented with a lovely bike like this, and you get to use it 5 or 6 times, which is a shame. But I am really, really busy this season, especially with the World Championships and also the Suzuki 8 Hour. So the weekends I get off, usually the last thing I want to do is ride a motorcycle. I just want to sit back and get over my jet lag. But no, it's a shame.
And because when you're going on the road, you've got to mix it with other people, not competitors, but sort of the tin boxes, and they get in the way. Cramp your style.
It's scary on the roads, I tell you. I've had some scary moments on the race circuits, and I've had a lot more scary moments on the roads. There's people coming at you from all directions trying to take you out. I don't know why. I'm on a bright green bike, but they don't seem to see me coming.
Oh no, well, we all know that problem though, don't we? Just how different is the road-going Kawasaki from the one that we see you on? I mean, because visually it looks exactly the same, but it's not quite.
Yeah, I'm impressed visually. I was surprised when they delivered it. How it's the exact replica of my race bike. You know, it looks the part certainly. When I ride it, I've not done that many miles on it. I've got to be honest. My first impression with the engine was I was really, really surprised. I knew it was going to be quite fast. I'd heard good reports, but you know, the bottom end acceleration was absolutely fantastic, which is very similar to my race bike. As far as the handling goes, it's difficult because you've got road tyres on, and when you've got slicks on my racing bike, I can push the bike so much harder into the corners. So that makes the bike feel a little bit lighter. The bike feels a little bit heavy compared to my racing bike, but it's close, you know, closer than any other bike I've ridden.
Yeah, but there's no way we could simply transplant that one and say, you race that one then next weekend.
I could, but I'd probably be a few more seconds off the pace, so I don't think the team would like that, and I certainly wouldn't. So.
While we're talking of the bike, big change for you this year from the Big Duke, the Big V-twin to a Transverse 4, but how did you find that? What's been the biggest difference between the two?
Well, they're so different, Jeff. You know, you can't start to compare.
It's a job to pinpoint.
It is. They are so different. You know, everything. I mean, from the chassis, especially. I'm using different tyres this year. I'm using Dunlop tyres, which feels completely different to the Michelin tyres. The chassis is so different. The Ducati is a very rigid bike. You know, you'll have seen it on television. The bike, a Ducati doesn't want to slide. It doesn't tie itself in knots. Compared with the Kawasaki, which you've seen Anthony Gobert in the past, and Simon Crayford last year, the bike moves around a lot. It's a very flexible bike, which for me suits my riding style a lot. You know, I prefer the more relaxed sort of riding where the chassis gives you a lot of feel. So I always know what the tyres are doing underneath me. Where the Ducati it's a little bit like Russian roulette. I never knew what the tyres was doing. I could do a fast lap time, but I never knew when I was getting close to the edge or I was on the edge. Where the setup of this bike, I can push it, 95%. I can feel it, and I know that I'm getting close to the edge. So there's a big difference with the chassis and tyres.
Did you find that last year's Duke then was a bit of an animal though compared with the previous one? Because I mean, I know that Carl had all sorts of problems with it, didn't he?
It was a little bit. It was a little bit worse, but not
Not markedly so.
No. For Carl, I think he had it quite lucky in '95. I think the Ducati was head and shoulders above the rest. And when he then jumped on the bike in '97, he realised that everybody else had caught up, and he had to ride the Ducati 2 seconds a lap faster. And the Ducati, he didn't want to know. And all of a sudden, from the bike being a user-friendly bike, for Carl, it was a beast.
It started biting back, didn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
And what about engine delivery? We hear a lot about the Ducatis and the way you can stunk out of corners and all the rest of it. This is a creamier power delivery, is it? And,
I've never heard that term used before, creamier. But
well, it's smooth.
Yeah, it's smooth. No, I know what you're trying to say.
Yeah, cream with lumps in then? No?
Yeah, well, if that's what you want to say. No, it is. It's very different to the Ducati.
Yeah.
These things, I can't believe how much they rev. When I first tested my race bike, and the team manager said, I said, what do I rev it to? And he said, about 14,500.
Yeah.
And I was like, you what? I was changing at like 11,000 on the Ducati. The Kawasaki, my race bike, it's top end. It's got a lot of top end power. It's very, very fast. Where the Ducati was grunt. It was punch out of the corners. These bikes, if you let the revs drop, let's say below 8,000, it's a waste of time riding it. You've got to keep it singing. You've got to keep
more like a two-stroke then.
Definitely, a lot more like. In fact, it's very, very similar to the way I rode a 500.
Yeah.
It was very difficult for me to get used to riding the Ducati. It took a lot of test sessions before I got used to, this short shifting and just using the torque of the bike. I was always getting in trouble off the technicians for revving the bike too hard. Right. Where now it's full role reversal. I'm in trouble with Kawasaki with all my technicians saying, "Wait, just rev the thing," and I'm saying, but it sounds like it's going to blow up. And they're saying, "You're not on a Ducati. It's not going to blow up. It's bikes. This is built for endurance. It won't go bang on you." So I've been revving it.
Okay, so if I said name the bike, you'd say GSXR. But which GSXR? You'd have a 50-50 chance of being right. It could be a 600, it could be a 750. And while I'm stood in the way of this badge on the back, you'd really never know. The 750, for a number of years, has been at the top of many people's shopping lists when looking for a high-performance sports machine. But more and more people are now moving down a bracket to the 600 class. And it's fair to say that Suzuki have never really had a serious contender. That was until 1997, when they released this, the GSXR 600. It really is very similar to the 750 in many ways. This twin spar aluminium frame is in fact exactly the same. The swing arm, however, is different, hasn't got the big brace across it that you'll find on the bigger bike, and it means the whole geometry is different and gives it a shorter wheelbase. In fact, the shortest wheelbase of any of the 600cc sports class. Front suspension is different. Here we've got 45mm shower suspension, adjustable for rebound and preload, and at the back, everything you'd expect to find on a high performance machine. Monoshock with remote reservoir, and that's fully adjustable for preload, rebound damping and compression. And if you can't find something to suit you the way you ride in that lot, then quite frankly I should give up. Perhaps the most striking similarity is of course the distinctive GSXR shape and the bodywork. It is, believe it or not, exactly the same. So how does it all work? Well, the short answer is very, very well. You've got 600cc's of inline 4-cylinder, which Suzuki claim produces 104 brake horsepower, and it'll take you to a top speed of 156 miles per hour. The engine is very, very revvy, very buzzy, and the red line doesn't appear till an incredible 13,500 RPM, and you really do need to be pushing it at over 7,000 RPM to get anything like decent performance. I reckon you could plonk a non-sports bike rider on this, and they'd quite happily tootle around all day at maybe below 6,000 RPM. They'd bring it back and they'd wonder what all the fuss was about, because below that you really don't get any kind of performance. But if you're willing to push the revs hard, it really does come to life. So how does it compare to other 600s? You'd have to say it's not as comfy as Honda's CBR 600, and it hasn't got the same smooth power delivery as Kawasaki's ZZR 600. But if you're into more racy lines and a more racy riding position and you're prepared to work the engine hard, then it's a good choice. Talking of riding positions, something that you'll notice when you get on one is if you're not riding like this with your head on the tank and you're a little more upright like this, then it's actually difficult to see the speedo and the rev counter because you're looking through the top part of this clear screen here, and if that was a tinted screen you'd have no chance of seeing what was going on. Just that's the way the curvature of the front is, and it's such a racy look that it's a small price to pay, I suppose. Talking of racy looks, if you want to go for the full racetrack look, you can do this little trick. Pop your key under there, release the latch and remove the pillion pad, and you can replace that with a rear cowling there. Converts it into a single seat and makes it look a bit more racetracky. And let's face it, you wouldn't want too many people to spend too long sat on that, would you? And while we're at the back end, if you get turned on by rubber, you've got a rubber fetish and you're into big fat rear tyres, then you'll like the 180 section fitted to the rear of the GSXR. I think it's fair to say that the GSXR hasn't exactly taken the 600 sports bike class by storm, not because it's overpriced. £7,200 compares very favourably with everything else in its class. It's probably because it's a bit more radical, it looks more racy, it looks more like a race rep, more of a race thoroughbred. And because of this and because of its motor, it requires a slightly different riding technique. You really have to work the engine quite hard, keep the revs up to get the best out of its performance. So if you're into high revs and precision racetrack handling, then here it is. And in next week's Two Wheels Better, more from Neil Hodgson, and Wayne hunts out the goodies at this year's Trade Expo.